for the approval of the agenda, I'd like to put a motion forward that remove 7.2, the summer fun area. Staff has received some more information, and this report that's before us maybe not the true facts of some of the information that's in it. So if I can get a seconder. Councilor Norbury, discussion? All in favor to remove? Okay, 7.2 is removed. Approval of the agenda. Councilor Norbury?
That all items in the Monday, April 12th, 2021 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting agenda be approved as amended.
Seconder, Councilor Lehman. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes, February 8th, 2021 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes. A recommendation. Councilor Majinski.
The minutes of the Monday, February 8th, 2021 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councilor Norbury. All in favor? Carried. Business arising from the minutes. Council, anything? Staff? Okay. Down to consent agenda. Take the recommendation. Councilor Norbury.
That all items in the April 12th, 2021 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder, Councilor Majinski. All in favor? Carried. Are there any items that council wants to bring forward for discussion? I'd like to bring forward 6.3 Union of BC Municipality Annual Membership. Discussion, seconder, Councilor Norbury. All in favor? Carried. So just to start that off, the reason I brought that forward is they're actually asking if we want to renew our membership. I guess curious what, I know on this, it was discussed here a few meetings back about that, and I think it was a PRD that was looking for support from municipalities in the Peace region not to renew with EBCM. It was brought forward by Mr. Worship Bertrand. So I'm curious what council thinks about that, whether we move that forward to the next regular council meeting to continue our membership with EBCM. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kaka. As I know, we do have and do receive grants regularly from UBCM. I think it's a good idea that we continue our membership. We should be putting this on a regular agenda to do that.
Want to put a motion forward? Councilor Norbury?
Make a motion that we move item 6.3, Union of BC Municipalities Annual Membership, regular council meeting.
Seconder? Councilor Majinski? Any discussion? Oh, Councilor Majinski?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I think, yeah, it'd be good to hear Mayor Bertrand's feedback from this, because this is the first I've heard of it, so it'd be interesting to see what the PRD has to say as well. But I think it definitely is a benefit to us to continue with this.
Yeah, and just on that, I think it was the Worship Bertrand actually brought it up at this council meeting what the PRD was asking of the municipalities. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm off center on that one, but I'm pretty sure it was in regards to UBCM. That could be wrong. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Is there anything else that anybody would like to bring forward off the consent agenda? Okay, so on to report 7.1, land sale policy TR 38 amendment. Report dated March 8, 2021 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding land sale policy TR 38 amendment. Recommendation. Councilor Howe?
For discussion.
Seconder? Councilor Norbury? All in favor? Carried. Councilor Howe?
The second part of the recommendation talks about that we postpone the decision to sell lots until we've had the chance to review the official community plan bylaw. Do we have a timeline on how long reviewing the official community plan bylaw will take?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, through council. So by the time we do the process for OCP review, it would be done by the end of 2021.
Councillor Howe?
So is there any way that we can expedite that? Is there any way we can speed that timeline up? Because this is something that's been lagging since 2016. We made a motion a couple of months ago about asking staff to look at it on a case-by-case basis with a list of criteria that would be required for somebody to purchase a lot. So that motion is not what we're talking about moving forward in the recommendation that will be there. So is there any way for us to expedite that process that we could get it done before the end of 2021?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. For the OCP review, the amount that we need to review the OCP and the detail that we need to put in it is the plan to grow the community and move forward. We'll be working, I believe the policy or the RFP is coming back to council next week for approval to start our process, because we did go out to RFP for it. Depending on how fast we're able to work with the company that we hire, there's a lot of information that we have to put into the OCP because it's been so long since we reviewed it. I don't know if we can expedite the OCP review that quickly. Also within the policy, it is still on a case-by-case basis, and we're asking for that decision to postpone at this time to ensure that any sales that would occur would align with the OCP. So, yeah, I do understand that, it's from 2016 that this has been ongoing. I can have Ms. Torville respond a little bit more to it as well. I wasn't here at that time.
Yeah, I got myself then Councillor Howe. So just a couple comments. I know staff's asking for that. I was in and talked to Ms. Thompson today. There is also that we can do number 3, which is another recommendation, and it's in the policy. And on page 30, they have it in red of what Ms. Thompson has just spoke about. Council considered on case-by-case basis. That's the amendment to the policy if council so decides. Councillor Howe?
Yeah, so this will be to you then, because that's something to the question that I was going to ask. Maybe you understand it a little better than I do. So in the third part of the recommendation that talks about adopting an amendment land sale policy as presented, that would give us the opportunity between now and when the OCP bylaw is updated, so that we could, at this time, we could already start reviewing them on a case-by-case basis.
So just on that, that's my understanding, reading through it and then talking with Ms. Thompson, that if we were to do recommendation 3, if that's the will of council, and not go with number 2 where staff's asked at the time that once this policy is put in place, it go forward to the next meeting. Again, obviously be, possibly debated. We have one member not here, but if it does pass there, then yeah, it would be on case-by-case basis before council. I mean, I would think they'd contact staff first. Staff would figure out the stuff that has to be figured out and then come forward. Councillor Howe?
So again, in the best of both worlds here, can we read recommendation 2 and 3? Like if 3 gets us through until the bylaw is officially adopted, but this gives us some time to review things on a case-by-case basis, it doesn't hold those up that have asked to look at it? I don't know if I'm being clear here or not. If I'm not, like just...
So I can answer, to me that would contradict the 2 recommendations, because one's saying to wait. So number 2 is asking for us to postpone any selling of portions of district owned property to abutting private residents. So that's the one on case-by-case basis. So to me, if we have that recommendation on the floor, that where staff would get the time to come back with the OCP. So to me, if you read both motions, or both motions are put on the floor and voted on, we're contradicting the one motion over the other. Councillor Howe?
So I could see where it could be perceived that way. I guess maybe my question is to staff, could we write a motion in that regard so that we could say that we are going to be updating the OCP, but we will review things at this time on a case-by-case basis?
Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. It just needed confirmation, but Yes, that is the way it would be. If you do the policy as presented right now, that it's a case-by-case basis, then as we're adopting the OCP guidelines, you can still do it on a case-by-case, but then when we do our OCP, there'd be additional things in it. So, yeah, they're both as we're reviewing the OCP. So it can be still by case-by-case, but for postpone.
And just for clarity, so that would be case-on-case basis if we were to use recommendation 3. And then that would be obviously not giving the postponement for staff to wait for the OCP, but as the OCP is being worked on, this would be added in. So number 3 would do the case-by-case. If we do number 2, it would not do case-by-case. Is that correct?
I'll have Ms. Torville respond. Torville? Sorry.
Thank you, that's okay. Deputy Mayor and through the council, yes, that is correct. If you want to adopt the amended lead cell policy as presented, you can do so. And then at the same time, though, we will, as the OCP is being updated, reviewed and updated, with those changes incorporated, if council so desires that want to do these sliver land sales, then that can be incorporated into the OCP bylaw as well. And I might add that during the review of the OCP, council, you will be the consultant who we're getting. They will be coming to council. There will be workshops where you will have input into this document as well. So if you want to make note of that, and I just ask you in advance to put your thinking caps on and just make some notes as to some things you would like to see as we're going through this. So yes, we can do both of these. Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Milbury.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I understand the importance that a lot of people have, like in expediency, get this done quickly, so people can, put up their fences, we heard. But I mean, last time we talked about this, I was more in favor of having a policy in place before we did one-offs. We do have a bit of a rough out from our last administration on where good spots are to expand into. But I think we should be waiting for our OCP to come in, and staff brought up a lot of good points in it to make sure they remove any sort of concerns over favoritism. I think it's good to have foundations for what meets criteria and what does not. So I'd rather wait to see the OCP completed before we do one-offs.
Councilor Howe?
So it would be of my opinion that I would not wait for the official community plan to be updated, but I am willing to meet you somewhere in the middle and say we could update the community plan if the staff thinks that would be beneficial. That being said, if we can go on a one-by-one cases between now and when it is updated, it also gives staff an opportunity to look at things in a real-world basis. And when somebody comes in and says, I would like to expand my lot, here are the reasons why, they can work through those things and develop a better OCP by actually working through it with people. And to me, I think this kills two birds with one stone. It allows us to move forward on something that's been delayed for our residents since 2016. And we still have some control over it. Staff has to develop some type of a list or criteria, because that's what we asked for in the previous meeting, so they still have to develop that. They go through the list and criteria, they present it back to council, and they say, this person wants to build this, they have $7,000 in costs, the DTR has no costs in this, but they're gonna get this sliver of land, there's no right-of-way issues, there's no pipeline issues, there's no anything, the only thing you need to worry about is A and B. And that way we can move forward on these, on the one-by-one case basis. And to me, yeah, if the OCP is able to cover everything, which I don't think it will be able to, but at least that way we start moving forward for those residents right away here.
Anything else from Councilor Milbury?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Howe, I think you did grasp a lot of the ideas and suggestions that we mentioned, but I mean, that's not in the policy, right? So if we adopt this policy now, we're not saying any of that the cost and the effort is on the individual yet. Which is why I think, this is why we should have our OCP in place.
Councillor Howe?
So I disagree with that, because I think we asked staff to establish a list or set of criteria to be completed by each requester to cover the DTR's interests for a case-by-case approach to be voted on in council. And I took that wording right from the video that I rewatched online. So that was the idea that this council came up with. I wasn't in favor of case-by-case basis. I said it should be a one encompassing thing. But council voted for a case-by-case basis, provided we were able to supply a list that people were able to kind of go through, and council and staff was able to check off and say, yeah, you've satisfied all these things. Then it would come back to us, and we'd be able to make the decision at that point. But I don't want to belabor the fact any longer. I'd like to put the motion forward that council adopts the amended land sale policy TR 38 as presented.
Seconder? Councillor Majinski? Discussion? And Councillor Kirby first.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The revised policy, I do like that it just states the district-owned property. And it says in our lawyer's remarks that it doesn't set a precedent if we were going to go to a case-by-case. It will, however, there will be, as it says, winners and losers. There's not going to be a whole lot of areas, I think, that are going to fit the bill. But I think with the district-owned land, the scenarios that are listed in the report lay out some pretty good alternatives. So I could vote in favor of it.
Discussion? Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea. For one thing, if anybody does want to expand, and again, DTR pays none of these surveying fees or anything, the homeowner or the landowner is responsible. So that'll give them a better idea of what these costs are associated with getting this extra land, so that next time somebody comes in, you know, okay, are you willing to spend $5,000 in order to get this much more property? Just so we have a more concrete idea of how much this is going to cost each property owner.
Any more discussion? Yeah, I can fully support the recommendation on the floor, and I agree with it that there is no cost to the district. It'll be the sole person that looks at purchasing that extra land. I think we have people already using land that is district owned anyways, so this gives them the option to come back in and talk to staff and see if those spots work for them. So I'll support the recommendation. Okay, any more debate? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, on to 7.3, sale of advertising policy, admin 21. Report dated April 12th, 2021 from the recreational service manager proposing changes to the sale advertising policy, admin 21. Recommendation, Councillor Majinski.
Sorry, Mayor, I'm going to step up for this one, just as I have a sign shop business in the district of Tunbridge, and this may pose as a conflict, so I'm going to step up.
Okay. Recommendation? Councillor Howe?
For discussion?
Seconder? I'll second it. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Howe?
Yeah, so I'm probably going to be on the outside looking in on this one as well, but to be honest, I've never liked this policy from day one. I didn't like the way that it actually affected some of the community groups that put this in place originally. In the past, the signage was regulated by the nonprofit group. An example was minor hockey and figure skating for in the arena. They kept a list of which sponsor paid and which didn't, and the term of the sponsorship. They would then request the maintenance staff remove or install a certain sponsor sign. It was very simple. It was very little staff time, and it did not include this council at all. It was completely done by the non-for-profit group themselves. Then somewhere along the line, when Mr. Ball was the CAO, this completely changed. Government gets involved, and we take something that's a totally simple thing to do and blow it way out of proportion. We've got a giant document on it that we are continuing to amend as more and more things come forward on it. And to me, I've never liked the way that it was presented, and to be honest, I prefer that we went back to something that's a lot more easier. And that's my take on it. I've never liked this whole list, and I think it was done better. The not-for-profits took care of it themselves.
Any more discussion by council? Council Norberg?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I like how staff decided to take two policies and combine them into one. I think it's a good initiative. I get to see this from a couple of different perspectives, and a funder, as the community forest always likes to give to community groups, and the Society for Children's Needs, where we receive funds from this advertising policy. And both those perspectives, it is a little challenging when it's up to the non-for-profit groups, in that sometimes it's taken advantage of. I mean, some groups sometimes go out and run advertise, solicit those funds. Sometimes it's kind of the district chasing after organizations who regularly fund. So it makes sense that the district sort of takes on that role in letting businesses know that this option is available for them, whether they take. And then we have an inventory of all of these signs everywhere. Like, I know there's in the report they talk about they don't know what's going on with everything. And if it's our building, our areas, we should have some at least knowledge of what's going on. And this way, we know what's going on. We know what's coming in. We know what's going out. We know what signs have come down, what goes up, etc., etc. My only other comment would be, what's the policy for the curling rink? There's a bunch of signs in there.
Yeah, I don't believe the curling rink's part of this. That was my question. I mean, I only seen the ball diamonds and the ice rink at this time, so that's a good question to staff. If we just ask staff in regards to that. So we see in front of us the curling rink, we see the ball diamonds, but there's no curling rink. So sorry, the hockey rink's in here, the diagram of the hockey rink, but Councilor Norberg brought up a good thing that the curling rink also has advertising at the back of the curling rink. Now, I can't speak on behalf of the Curling Association, and I don't believe to, but I believe it's because the way they lease the building part of the allowance from the district. And I think that's why they get the advertising in there and they deal with it on their own. But before I go to staff, I think Councilor Neiman had something first.
We actually went out and looked for advertisers for the boards in the curling club, and we had, the district was not involved at all. All we did was go to Tank Finney, Peace River Coal, or whoever, and if they wanted to donate, we'd send letters out. If they wanted to advertise, then we would charge $500 for a big sign, $200 for a small sign. So that's all it was. The district was not involved at all.
So I'm going to go to staff here in a second, but just on that, I see where Council Howell brings it up, and you know, I was reached out by some people from minor hockey and said they used to do it like the curling rink does. So that, to me, the curling rink has not changed with this policy. But what we have done is taken the curling or the ice rink and taken that away from two groups that use it the most, and that would be minor hockey and the local figure skating association, because they used to solicit those same individuals, maybe the way curling rink is doing, and got that money for the advertising. So before I go to Council Norberg, just to staff, I'm not sure if we've missed the curling rink or if it's because we have a different policy with the curling rink compared to the hockey rink and the ball diamond. Ms. Thompson, sorry, I'm bad.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll pass it over to Interim Director Howe and our Recreation Manager, Ms. McKay.
Good.
If you look on, Mr. Chairman, if you look on the first page of the report, second last line in the first paragraph of the background, by Ms. McKay, so you can speak to it if you wish, but we do list the curling.
Well, my bad to staff, I apologize. I did read the report, I must have scanned over it. But when I go through the documentation in here, we have pictures of the ball diamonds, and we have pictures of our ice rink. We have no pictures of the curling rink in regards to how the board is handled there. Listening to Councillor Lehman, which I'm not sure if he sits on the board there or not, But is the district dealing with the sponsorships in the curling rink then? To Ms. Thompson.
I'll have Ms. McKay respond to that.
So, yes, so with the new policy that we had amended last year, so that was supposed to come through the district, we did, I think in the first year, we did get the solicitor form for the curling club, and I thought they only had one sign there, in. We didn't get a diagram of the locations, because there's quite a bit of wall space that could be chosen for the signage. Whereas the ball diamond is kind of specific to the fencing or the bleachers, and then in the hockey arena, we wanted like that far as the wall. Whereas the curling rink's a little bit more unique with two sides of the end, so we just have never had a diagram of locations for that facility, but they are included in these policies.
So if I may, Ms. Thompson, through to you, do we know how many sponsors have come through to the district for the curling club? Because I know of, I want to say 3 if not 4 signs at the end of the curling rink, at the very back wall, that have been there since I think I've come to Tumble Ridge.
Thank you. I'll pass that to Ms. McKay.
Again, I'm not sure if they're still there. I was under the impression the beginning was there. And that was part of our issue with these policies that are coming through us, that this year we've received almost maybe 2 solicitor forms from the nonprofit groups. And therefore we haven't received a contract stating whether they still have an agreement with those businesses and if the sign should stay in place.
And sorry, I'm not trying to tell you, but I totally agree with some of that. Like, I know when this came up, and I think it was the issue of the ball down was brought forward by staff, and I think we ended up starting to join the hockey rink and all that was all these signs out at the ball down, as nobody knew if they were paid for, if it was paid for to a group. There was no inventory, so I can see where staff's coming from in regards to trying to get a handle on if that sign should still be up or should it come down, has it been paid for or not paid for. So I apologize about the curling rink. I did read it again. I think it was the drawings that caught my eye that we had the ice rink and we had the ball diamonds, but my apologies for missing that in the report. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I made the same mistake in that I saw 2 policies and I made the assumption that the curling was separate. But I'm also with you. Like I seem to recall a lot of signs up in the curling rink. I think that's a good example of why the district should be taking an inventory of these things. Is that $500 doesn't get you a lifetime advertising space, right? Like it's an opportunity to generate funds every single year, and staff can do that. And with this policy, I like how it gives all nonprofit groups opportunity to fundraise. It's not just, it gives freedom to people that are looking to advertise that can get something extra for their advertising money, right? A good example is, King Cole donated $500 to the Society for Children's Needs last year. The option is to donate to Figure Skating Club, minor hockey. I know we keep that in mind in the community force when we are advertising. I mean, they're the users. Obviously, some of the money should go to them, but it doesn't lock you in. This is why I like the policy.
Council got any more in regards to discussion? Councilor Howe? Oh, sorry.
So when I read the, on page 35, and I look at the financial budgetary implications, and you look at the amount of people that have to touch this within the district of Tumbler Ridge, for something so simple as a $500 sponsorship, to me, the onus should be on the nonprofit. So that the nonprofit doesn't keep an inventory or doesn't keep track of who's given them some advertising money along the way, then it's on them. What happened on the fences of the baseball diamonds? That group totally broke down. They weren't there anymore. Minor hockey, figure skating, they kept good records on who was on the wall and who wasn't. And they would contact those groups and they would say, yours has ran out. They would then contact the community center and say, such and such is not paid this year. Can you please remove the sign at your leisure when you guys have time to do it? And it would be done by staff. It was a lot less onerous than what it is now. We probably spend more than $500 for somebody to give $500 to a non-for-profit group. The amount of time that staff puts together putting this, sending it through the finance department, invoicing businesses, dispensing funds to the groups, the facility maintenance group, to monitor the signage for wear and tear, appearance and graffiti. We put more money into it than the $500 that they get out of it. And that's what happens when government gets involved. You get too much of this stuff going on, and honestly, in my opinion, we should throw the policy right out. We should throw it right out and make it way less onerous. I understand where Councillor Norbury is coming, that certain groups have a harder time of getting funding and financing or funding opportunities. Maybe the in-ice sale could be okay, that we allow that to go to all groups. But where the curling rink is in the curling rink, that's where those funds should go. Up on the wall should be figure skating and minor hockey for the stuff that is sold there. Let them take care of it and figure it out. Get the workload off of our staff. We're paying union employees and staff to invoice and send this stuff out at huge dollar amounts when we don't need to be doing it. So to me, we're wasting money here for nothing.
Councillor Norbury next.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate your viewpoint from how things used to be, Councillor Howe, but I mean, the report in front of us says the exact opposite. The report is saying that, without these changes, it's taking up a lot more time than it should, because we don't know what's going on. These groups are trying to keep track of it. Their boards are changing, their presidents are changing. Things get lost, right? Staff is saying, like, the way it's been done with the nonprofits organizing it, it's creating more work for them. So rather than create more work, I think what Councillor Howe is concerned about, we streamline it and just put the district involved, let them minimize the effort, because they're finding, like they're telling us, there's an easy way to do this. I think we should be following their recommendations. They're the ones dealing with it.
Yeah, like one thing I really took from the report and just reading through it was not knowing the year date on a sign. Whether somebody sponsored a non-for-profit organization mid-year, paid for the sign, district's unaware when that sign is actually due. Like, some people pay in September, some are paying in October, some are paying in January. And I took that from the point and thought, geez, how do you control that? I mean, I get we're trying to rely on the non-for-profits to take control of that, but I mean, I kind of agree with Councilor Norbury when you see that staff saying that it's just so hard to keep track. I mean, whether you split them up into different sections where, we hear one councillor saying the wall should be for minor hockey and figure skating inside the rink, and on the ice it can be split. I think that's even more onerous, but that's my opinion. Councilor Norbury?
Councillor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for coming. And I think if we sit back and think about our boards and the boards that we're on and how we're managing, sometimes it's enough of a challenge to deliver what the organization's trying to achieve by being a board, right? Like, there's so much on a board's plate, having to keep track of the advertising, something that can easily follow, I think, right? And yeah, I think I support it. I'd be happy to make the recommendation.
Council, got anything else?
Councilor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move that council adopt sales of advertising in ice billboard policy admin 21 as amended, and that council rescind in ice sales of advertising policy admin 26.
Seconder? Councilor Kirby? Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Oh, sorry? Okay, sorry, we took too long. Defeated. Good. Right now, we're staff is going back to run with the policy that's in place now. So I'm not sure if there's something else or some other direction council wishes to give back to staff, because right now they'd revert back to that. Councillor Howe?
Well, this is a PNP meeting, and this is for a discussion among councillors and to utilize staff where we can. So you know, that where I would like to see it goes back to a much simpler term. I feel like Councillor Lehman is in the same boat as I am. I'm not sure where Councillor Kirby is, but I would like to hear from staff. I mean, you're getting two different, Councillor Norberry and I have the same report in front of us. We read it differently and describe it differently, completely differently. I look at it, it says, this is costing us a lot of money to do it this way. He says, no, this is streamlining it and it costs us less money this way. So I'd like to hear from, you know, the director of the community center or Ms. McKay to ask her which way is better. Is it better this way, or was it better the way that we had before where it wasn't so onerous? And see what staff has. Like, have a discussion here amongst yourselves.
Yep, don't disagree with you. That's what this is for. Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. I'll pass it to Mr. Howie and Ms. McKay for response.
Mr. Chair, I'll start out. The whole purpose of the report.
You're going to have to either speak up or bring the mic in a little closer there, Howie. I can't hear what you're saying, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Is it better?
Yep.
Yeah, the whole purpose of the report was try to clarify some of the difficulties with the previous policy and to reduce the staff to place more onus on the nonprofit organizations. So I'll let Ms. McKay explain that.
So, yeah, so originally, looking at the policy, yes, you're right, the nonprofits.
And then motion,
Yeah, the only issue with the nonprofits doing it is just we didn't have a record, we weren't sure if it's not just paid for, which should still be okay. So the reason for streamlining it with the in-ice was in hopes that it would cut down on, you know, going after the nonprofits to get their district forms, to get confirmation of their agreements between the businesses and that sort of thing. Having it in-house, it would be easier to keep record of when payment was received for that signage and who received it, and therefore follow up on the following years. The only issue that I kind of foresee possibly is the district's involvement and the ease of businesses possibly not renewing or changing their sponsorship from one group to another, that sort of thing. So I'm kind of concerned that the district might put themselves in a position where it may appear that they're not transparent. I just don't know how going back to the original way would keep us informed as to what side belongs there. So this policy was drafted to keep that paper trail.
Councillor Howe?
Yes, so the first thing I picked out, as Mackay said, is the only issue is that there is no record, right? So if we've created this policy, and this is what happens, right? These things snowball and we add a little bit more, and this part wasn't ever thought about, and these things just seem to get bigger and bigger and bigger for something that was supposed to be so simple. And if that is the only issue, to me, I always thought of this with the record. My wife was in charge of corporate sponsorship and funding at minor hockey for 4 or 5 years, so we were well informed of what was going on with corporate sponsorship and how they would get that on the wall and how the process worked. And it was, there is a carryover portfolio that is given to the next board member who takes over. There's a brief history given to them. But that to me is on the nonprofits. That's not on the District of Tumbler Ridge. If you don't forget to check to see if the Finnings of the world or at the time True Hardwares of the world or Home Hardware has provided their funding or not, and you don't get funding from them this year, that's on you. Right? So it's up to the nonprofit to regulate that stuff on their own. Take it right out of staff's hands. Who cares if they don't know what's paid for and what isn't? That's up to the nonprofit to figure it out. So to me, there could be a way that the list is created, it's given to staff, and you just have a date or a time. Just make this a lot easier process that, you know, for hockey season, your signage has to be paid for by September 1st. Or otherwise it comes down, and it can be that simple in email form. And same thing for the curling rink. Curling rink sets the date of September 1st, away we go. golf course goes to a different time, something that lines up with the golf course starting and stopping. But to me, I just think, I don't know how to do it tonight, but in a PMP, I mean, I'm looking for staff to say, man, this isn't an easier way, or this is it, or something. But I just feel that we've made this a lot bigger than what it needed to be.
Councilor Norbury, then Councilor Kirkhope.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think it needs to at least have some oversight. It's our building. These are our facilities, right? Like, it has to have some oversight, which is why there always needs to be a policy. And so, I mean, Councilor Howe speaks a lot, you speak a lot to how things used to be. Can you speak to why this change was made? Like, things evolve and change, and I have to assume, like, we made this policy because there were issues. Like, you don't fix something if it isn't broken, right? So maybe you can speak a little more to that. I mean, if it was working, why aren't we still doing it?
Councilor Howe?
Yeah, so what my recollection of it is, Councilor Norbury, is this came about because of the signage that was in the ball diamonds. So there was a non-for-profit group that went out and solicited people to put signs up there, and they kind of came to the town, they wrote a letter, could they do this? The town said, yeah, sure, go ahead and put these up. They put them up, and then that group, whatever group that was, it was like a leadership group, or I can't remember the name of the group, but they were doing stuff with, like, similar to what the youth center was doing. They're trying to organize things for youth and get them out of town and stuff. So that came in place, they put those signs up, and then they stayed there for years at a time, like 2 or 3 years, while the group had folded. Whereas what was going on in the hockey arena with minor hockey and the figure skating club, they were taking care of their own stuff and they were doing fine in there. This got pushed over onto them. When they came in with a sign policy that, well, then we had debates in here about fixing what was going on at the ball diamonds, then that incorporated the hockey rink. Then we came up with the in-ice logos. Then the curling rink came on board. We talked about bringing the curling rink in. Then we talked about the golf course, and we needed to have an advertising, some type of a policy. That's where that came from. Oversight, I understand where you're coming from. And there could be some minimum verbiage on oversight that says, like, stuff we've written in other bylaws that talked about, we will not advertise alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, tobacco products, coarse language, something along those lines of, your signage can't break any of these rules when it's given out, and that can be given out to the non-for-profits to hand out whoever they give them to. So in that idea of oversight, I agree with you, there needs to be some oversight on it, but not to the extent of what we've created here, and this thing is just snowballing, so that's the background on it.
So I got Councilor Calkin and Councilor Kirby. So Councilor Howe kind of mentions most of it, and it did start from the ball diamonds. And I don't want to pin it on a group, because I don't remember the ones that are all involved, but I remember Jeff Cooper was one of the gentlemen that first started it. I think it was a great idea what they came up with, because they used that money to take youth skiing. I can't remember if it was always the Powder King, but I know they went out to, they went out by Fort St. John quite a bit, overnight trip. So I think it was used, and it was a great idea, but the problem that arose was the dating issue. It fell off the table, what signs should actually still be on the fence, who's paid, who's not. I believe from my side of council previous, is people were starting to complain that those signs are up and they're not paying for them. And I just think, again, it happened where a great resident came forward, had a great idea. He did come through, because it was used for that in the Lions Club. So the Lions Club and I don't want to say it was a youth center, but it was, it was something similar to that, where it was a leadership group or something. And it was kind of a joint venture. And I think it just lost traction due to, I know the Coopers had left the community for jobs and stuff, and I just think it wasn't carried forward from another individual jumping on board. So I can see why that fell off at the ball diamonds. I also kind of agree, like, I voted in favor of the recommendation that Councilor Norbury did put on the floor, because I've read through it, and this is staff's idea to try and stop all the staff time into it. But when we start discussing it more and listening to staff and listening from Joy McKay and stuff like that, maybe there is a simpler way that, like Councillor Howe just mentioned that, whether it's a curling rink and a hockey rink, all sponsorship has to be in by, September 1st, because it's fall. That's when they start usually. If it's not in it, obviously it should be removed by, the organization gets a hold of staff removes the sign, so be it. And maybe the ball diamond should be spring. Like, we set those timelines. So, you know, if an organization goes out and they don't go back to one of the businesses or whoever who that may put a sign at the ball diamonds, if staff hasn't received that letter by the end of May, the sign comes down. If the company has paid that individual, well, I'm sure the company's gonna get a hold of that individual or a not-for-profit organization that they donated to. They say, my sign just came down, I gave you the money. Like, maybe we put it back on some of these not-for-profits that are soliciting the businesses for donations. I mean, it's a great $500 or whatever some of these signs are valued at for some of these not-for-profit organizations. So maybe there is an easier way of doing it compared to the policy we have in front of us. Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Deputy Kirkpatrick. You've covered all the topics I was going to hit.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, it's just that at the beginning I was for this policy, but you brought up some great points that the staff time and that it's taking the nonprofits out of fundraising basically, and that is the whole point. For any boards you've ever sat on, the first thing you do is figure out your money, who you got to get your donations from. So that's why I voted in the negative.
So I got Councilor Norbury, but just before Councilor Norbury, I mean, you know, we talk about the reason we have a PEP, and it's not just for when we have delegations and get more involved in that friendly discussion or get everybody involved, but from staff side. So whether Ms. Thompson, it's through you or through your other staff, like what's their opinion on some of the comments they heard? Is it something that, to me, staff can take away and come back and say, geez, you know, we've heard some great points, maybe we should try, you know, come back with some language for council, you know, whether that's the rec department or whatever, but, you know, maybe they've heard some stuff that, you know, kind of starts to make sense. Like we listened to Joy McKay, and to me, like, there's some concerns from her side, and I picked the same points that Councillor Howe did. But I mean, to me, we want to involve staff at the PNP. This is what it's for. You know, it's not to me come down on staff. It's to get them involved. I understand that they're the ones that put the policy here, but we've asked for it. So it's not staff policy. I mean, it was directed by council to begin with. Staff come forward. To me, staff is saying, hey, some changes should be made to make it more fluent and more easier on time constraints. And now, to me, when council sits around here and has an open discussion, to me, it gives a chance for staff to have that two-sided conversation.
Okay, do you have any comments or sorry, Howie?
I'll respond first, Mr. Chair, and if Mr. McKay has some additional comments, I'll pass it the microphone. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. This is a good discussion. I think that what the report was trying to accomplish was to be accomplished within the confines of what the present system is. And there is some urgency to this, but I think we have time to take a second look. Take the comments that have been made here tonight into consideration and come back with another.
Okay. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I like the advertising policy because it allows other groups to get funding. I hear some talk here that we want to take that fundraising opportunities away from organizations, which I'm concerned about. I mean, it sounds like we're only wanting to just hockey and figure skating and just curling. And that's where I think I'm trying to represent. There's a lot of organizations, there's 11, 12 groups that are able to get funds through this policy, and I would like to see them continue because they may not have a lot of other fundraising opportunities. I'd still like them to receive funds. That's one of my big concerns. That they lose the opportunity. Like the last nice advertisement, Community Force donated to 7 different groups that deal with children. I mean, minor hockey, figure skating, rangers. So like there's 5 others that were non-hockey related groups. And they wouldn't have had that opportunity to get that funding, and they needed it because I spoke with them. If they didn't get that, they would be out, right? So I hope when we come back to this policy, we still keep that framework there for others to utilize district-owned buildings, district-owned spaces for their funding.
Yeah, so I have Councilor Calkin and Councilor Howe. Yeah, and I don't want to see any funding taken away from any group. I don't think that's what I'm commenting on. Again, I think just having that discussion, open discussion with council, and then having staff involved. give them an opportunity to relook at it. Now, to me, the in-ice, and I think Councillor Howes already mentioned that, maybe that's handled differently. But maybe, I mean, I know the curling rink, they really focus on getting sponsor money and stuff like that. So maybe when we're talking, we split it up, like we have the curling rink, to me, if it's on the walls, it's the curling rinks. If it's on the ice, again, it's the same way as we could do the on-ice in the hockey rink. If it's on the wall in the hockey rink, maybe that's for figure skating and hockey go up. The ball diamonds, maybe that's for all groups. The golf course, all groups. To be honest, I never really looked at the golf course. I don't want to speak to too much of the golf course here. If you guys want to discuss the golf course, I'm fine with that. I'll just excuse myself. And the reason I've excused myself is because, to me, I have a business and I possibly look at, instead of doing a sponsorship through the non-profits with these signs around our community and the hockey rinks and stuff like that, to me, it's through the district. So I felt like I was in a conflict when we started talking about the golf course, because I may be a sponsor through my business. So I think the golf course can be handled differently. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, I didn't read it after you guys had talked about it, but my understanding from the golf course side of it was those funds went back to the district. Now, if that's not the case, I mean, maybe that's something that needs to be brought back up by this council and the state. 50% of it is used for non-for-profits or whatever. Again, I don't want to get into a huge conversation while I'm here, but if you guys want to have that, that's up to you guys. But I don't want to see, it's all about taking money away from other groups. I think there's other opportunities for all groups, and whether that's the in-ice gets split up the way we have it in policy, and on the backboards that's been here. So I've been here 15 years, and I know when I first came here, that's how the boards were handled. It was through hockey and figure skating, and I think most communities that I've come from, that's usually how it's done. It's hockey and figure skating have the signs on the walls, and it's because they're the heavy users of the facilities. So, Councillor Howell?
Yeah, you know what, I was gonna touch on the same thing, that, have it set up for the rink is for this group, the curling rink is over here, the ball diamonds can be for all other groups, or any other creative idea that they come up with on their own. So the idea in the hockey rink and the curling rink, that was done by the hockey groups, the figure skating groups, and the curling group. The ball diamonds was for one other group, and then all these other non-for-profit groups were able to jump on all the ideas that other people had put out there when we put this policy in place. So we effectively took funding away from other groups that came up with the idea and gave it to the other groups that didn't have the idea. But in fairness, so that we can come up with some way to do that, I think the ball diamonds, as far as I'm concerned, ball diamonds is one of the best spots to advertise in town. In the curling rink, we only get to see it 6 months of the year. If anybody, or a hockey rink, hardly anybody's in there. Nobody's in there right now. And but anytime you drive out of town or go to the horse stables or go for a walk around town, you always see that signage out by the ball diamond. So it's actually a better place for people to spend their money. But to me, I think that is the framework that you've brought forward, Councilor Prokopka, in some regard, and allow staff to run with it and see what they can come up with to, for lack of a better term, dumb this down a little bit for us. Don't make it so onerous, right?
Yeah, and again, I think it was us that I mean, I think it came up, whether it was from staff or from Mr. Wall's side when he was here, but it was us that put it in place, and to me, gave that direction to staff to come up with something, because we thought it wasn't working, and like you said, maybe we've actually really affected the concept, and then listening to staff that the one policy wasn't working because it seemed like there was a ton of staff time having to go into it. Come forward with some changes into a different policy, and then picking out some words that are staff saying that maybe there is a way of going back with them having some of the insight from all of council, not just a few of us, but all of us, coming back with something. Maybe it's not a policy, maybe I don't know, maybe it has to be a policy, but maybe it's a different terminology. But I believe when it came to non-for-profits, Let's Talk, there was a meeting that first started by Mayor Bertrand. And at that point, we had a different senior director of community service that decided that the community center would take on those meetings. Now, COVID's here, so I can understand that the staff probably not doing those meetings, but that's probably where, if it comes back from staff and we like their ideas, when COVID's over, or it's emails to board members or to the presidents, the staff has a way of contacting these boards to explain some changes, and maybe we hear back from them that they don't agree with those. So, Councilor Murray, go ahead.
Thank you, Councilor Patrick. So Councilor Howe, you continually bring up, it worked better before. Can you speak to how much fundraising the minor hockey received before this policy was in place versus how much they received afterwards? Because for me, I think that's a big piece of key information, in that say they raised $10,000 before, and now they're receiving 5. But, I mean, advertising in the district is up to $20,000. I mean, I think I'd like to have a little more information, and hopefully you can provide that. Yeah.
Councillor
Yeah,
Hall?
and I can't give you real numbers. I mean, I can get them, and maybe I can email them to you, give them to you, but I absolutely do know that when this was first put in place, minor hockey specifically, I don't know for sure for figure skating, but with where my wife was on that, minor hockey absolutely received way less corporate sponsorship when this policy came into place.
Councillor Milbury?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And that's
Don't
one of
want
the
that.
things, like, it's, has our fundraising gone up? Has it gone down? I think that's something we should also be thinking about too, because policy as it stands helps out a lot of groups. And definitely want to support all groups in Village, not just one or two.
And I fully agree with you. And, you know, we can direct staff to contact these groups, whether it's minor hockey, figure skating. You know, I know Councillor Howell can get it from hockey, but what about the figure skating and stuff like that? But I mean, we could direct staff to get those numbers too. You know, it's going to give them time, but I mean, that could be something that we ask staff to do to have the true numbers or close to true numbers. I mean, we got to be honest. I mean, you know, got to be able to contact every group, right? So, not sure if council would want that. Councillor Milbury?
I just want to mention is that we're making, talking about making a big decision that could potentially affect a lot of groups. And if we are making a drastic decision of where we're cutting out multiple organizations, we should at least have that stakeholder discussion. I mean, I know curling and hockey are very well represented here. Not all groups are.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but, you know, I sit on, like, okay, I'm not a president or board members, but I am a part of a lot of other groups, not-for-profit groups in this community. But, you know, I don't think we're asking, I think give staff a chance to come back, but like the on-ice could still be the way we do it today with this policy. It's just the boards, but, I don't know, Councillor Howe?
Yeah, and I never once have I said we should cut anybody out. I think the idea of keeping the groups in their own areas makes sense, and the groups that don't have their own specific area, if they can come up with something creative, maybe they advertise, I don't know, somewhere else. They find some other creative idea where they can do their advertising. We're not talking about cutting them out, but the Ball Diamonds is a fantastic area for all other non-for-profit groups that don't have a specific area that they normally go to, and the in-ice advertising can be utilized the same way if people still want to do it that way. But I think we should move this up to staff and ask them to see if they can create something a little easier here for us.
And I'll just make one comment when you talk about the Ball Diamonds. So I drive by quite often, but, you know, some of the other non-for-profits, but it's amazing when you see the amount of signs there that aren't there. I know myself as a business owner, never been contacted by a non-for-profit. I want to know if I want to sign at the Ball Diamonds. I actually literally contacted staff myself. I contacted Joy McKay one day. Actually, she was in my store. So I won't say I phoned over. She was in on her own time. It was on a Saturday, so my brother would work. I asked her how it worked. She's the one that explained to me how it worked. That, you know, she'll send it to me, but, you know, I go through, I pick a non-for-profit, fill the sheet, I give it to them, and blah, blah, blah. Right? Nobody's approached it. I mean, I don't know how many other businesses have not been approached in this town, but we say that, and I think if we have staff take this back and come back, to me it's a drive for non-for-profits that do want some money. There's other businesses that have probably never been hit up in the community. I mean, for $500, I think Councillor Howell's mentioned, like, to me, hockey's great, don't take me wrong, but to me, you get more bang for your buck at the Ball Diamonds. What kind of direction does staff need out of this? Like, what kind of direction could we give staff? I know I've heard from staff, and they could take it back, but do you need specific direction from council to do this? Like, I know right now we have policy, and we're obviously going to follow the policy, or staff would follow the policy that's in place today, which is policy admin 26. But what kind of direction would we need to give you guys to, and no disrespect, I'm not saying we're not happy, come back to something better, but we heard from staff side too, and picked out a couple points, but what kind of direction do we give to you guys now? Sorry, I'm lost.
I feel I'm a little bit lost as well. I mean, I am fairly new to Tumblr, and you know, to figure it all out, and, you know, staff did bring the report. So what I think we would do is create a working group with our staff and see you know, we may have to come back to council with more questions and asking for more clarification, because after we sat down and thought about it a little bit, then it's like, oh, but what about this, this, and that? So we can bring it back to another PPC for request for clarification, because after this discussion and thinking about it and talking to other of our staff that deal with this on a daily, then it's like we came up with these other questions. So it's not going to be a quick process, but we'll have to sit down and you know, revamp. You know, it's a little, you know, I do understand, you know, the minor hockey and the curling rink and the ice and everything. So I guess I need myself to also understand the other nonprofits that are also getting the fundraising, and you know, in a way, like in my opinion, so if you have 4 nonprofits and they all have a solicitor, so they each go to the same business over and over and over again, and they're like, oh no, that's to here. Okay, so then now does this business now only have that one not-for-profit that they deal with? So then there's not another one that can come in and say, hey, you know, we're coming in and we would like this, but they've gone to all the businesses and they're like, no, this is non-for-profit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, 7, and 8 have no option to get in on it. However, it is also at the business's discretion to say, you know what, here's my $1,500 and I want it to go to group A, B, and C. You know, the business does have some discretion on their own to do it. So yeah, I'd like to go back to staff and actually sit down and you know, see what else we can come up with, where our challenges are, and then when we do have more questions, we can come back to council and say, you know, these are other things that we've thought of for clarification, come back to council. So yeah, it's not going to be a quick process, but I would like that opportunity to come back for more clarification once we've thought of things.
Okay, so I mean, you don't need a motion, you can understand from council's side, or would you want a motion to, you know, I mean, I want to make sure it's clear, and I understand that you guys will come back. I don't think it's open-ended where it comes back to I'm not saying the next PP, but one down the road. I mean, I myself as a councilor, I don't expect it to be done overnight, but I think, you know, some councilors have mentioned it, some councilors got a different insight to it, but, you know, like maybe we did do wrong when we brought it forward and we didn't think about it thoroughly enough as council, not staff, but as council. I'm only speaking for myself, but I just want to make sure there's clear enough direction back to staff that come back and ask me any questions, but do they have something to go forward and work on? So, Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I think one of the main reasons that this was defeated was because of the staff time and the work that staff does. So at this point, you're going to every organization, trying to figure out who owes the money. Then the district reaches out to the businesses, decides whether the business is going to sponsor, find out what organization the business wants to sponsor, and then you guys will also put the signs up wherever they go. So even just sign installation, etc. This is going crazy. So I mean, that's one of the big issues, is how can it be less tasking on the district employees? That's how I see it. I'd like to see come back and report myself.
Anything else from council side? Is staff kind of got an idea? Like, again, I don't want to send you away. I get that you might come back for some clarity and stuff or something, or I just want to make sure staff's okay. Like, I mean, obviously the policy is put in front of us. We decide to go a different route or go a different direction. We're going, the ship's turning. I just want to make sure staff's okay with that and understand that this is kind of what we're hoping to come back with.
So I'll have Director Howie respond. You know, the questions about staff time and everything that's there. I'm not sure what is currently in place, so I'll have Director Howie respond to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I differentiate between a council meeting and a committee.
No problem.
This happens in life. We've been listening very attentively. Notice several pages of notes made. I've even jotted a couple things down. So I think we can go away based on the conversation we've heard here, based on the past experience in the original policy and what we were suggesting tonight, and also maybe go back and look at some of the questions as to how we got where we are. I think that sort of approach will consider
Okay. Thank you. Council, anything else? We're on to 7.4, policies and prior committee meeting terms of reference. Report dated April 12th, 2021 from the Director of Corporate Services. Oh, sorry, yeah, get on that. Sorry, it was in there. Sorry, Councilor Majeski. Report dated April 12th, 2021 from the Director of Corporate Services regarding terms of reference, TOR, for the policies and priorities committee meeting, PPC meetings. Recommendation. I'll move for discussion. Seconder, Councilor Kirby, all in favor? Cool. Does anybody want to start us off? I mean, I can quickly give. I was in and talked to Ms. Thompson, and the reason I'm bringing this forward is because there really isn't terms of reference for our PPC. It's kind of we're not allowed to do this in this meeting, but we're not allowed to do that, and we can't do this, but we can do that. So it's probably time for terms of reference. Previous to PPC was we could make motions and vote on them as long as there was no money involved. It did not always have to go to a regular meeting of council. Policy could have been one of them. You could approve a policy within the PP. It did not have to go to a regular meeting, but if there was money attached to it, it did have to go to a regular meeting. So I think staff caught this on their own, realizing that we didn't have it in place, and that's why it's before us tonight. Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I mean, looking back over the years at some of our PPC meetings or committee of the whole as it started out, there was we had a lot of chances to get the nonprofit groups in, to have them present, especially when it came time for budget season. They'd come in and speak to their grant and aids for services, and they would update us on a regular manner where we could have more of a discussion where they don't have a 15-minute slot. There would be times where we could actually have a longer slot just to, you could have one or two nonprofits or whatever organizations you want in. I don't remember always having correspondence on a PPC, just if we have to add it on, but it was more of issues like Let's Talk, other council initiatives, even having time to talk about our own portfolios or the groups that we sit in, more of a debate or information gathering for councillors. So I like the idea of revamping it for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of agree with you when you talk about having, and again, like it just showed it tonight there in regards to the sale policy for that, or the fund policy there, involving staff in that conversation and getting from their side and then from council's side. And I think that was the idea in regards to bringing in delegations, having that more back-to-back talk instead of being so formal. So, I know some of us really push for this to come back into as a PMP meeting, and I know myself, I like it. I think it's normally we sit around a table. We're not sitting up here, just with COVID obviously, but normally we're sitting around a table. It's a little bit dialed back and more conversation as a whole. So anything from the rest of the council? Councilor Bear.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I agree with both of you. And the PPC is more of a working meeting. We're coming up with ideas to make decisions. Council meetings are decisions. And I also think we shouldn't have correspondence in our PPC meetings. A lot of that does require sometimes does require decisions to be made at the time, and I prefer them on a council meeting. We don't miss them by being on a PPC meeting. I mean, we didn't miss them. I mean, we dealt with it today, but we moved it to a council meeting. It should have just been on a council.
Do you need a motion to remove that from our PPC meeting? Correspondence, in regard to correspondence. Like I see what you have it on page 60 and what you have suggested so far there, and that's called to order, approve the agenda, adoption of minutes, presentations and delegations, reports and adjournment. There's nothing there in regards to correspondence, and that is probably the wishes of staff. Is there anything we want to add that they didn't have? I guess that's what we should be talking about. If there's anything that's not on page 60 that we'd want to see added to our regular agenda of the PP. Staff, Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. We noted that we did not add discussion items. So, you know, we do have that ability just to have a discussion item besides reports, right? So
Okay.
coming further in our agenda tonight, we have discussion items. So if we are looking at this order that would go into the bylaw, we would prefer to add discussion as well, discussion items.
Do you need a motion to add that?
Not at this time, thank you.
Council's good with having a discussion added to that page 60? Lots of nods. Councillor Howe? Councillor Howe?
Yeah, and just, why no correspondence? Why would we not have correspondence in those?
Well, I think, I can't speak for all council, but I think some of it is just letters sometimes for correspondent, but some of it's money. So the UBCM is money. So they want us to renew our membership, there's money involved, so I have to go to a regular meeting. Now, to me, when it's, maybe I'm wrong, but Stock can tell me if I am, but to me, when we're asking just to send a letter of support or whatever from other communities that ask, we can do those at PPCs, but when it comes to money, we can't. Like tonight was money, that's why I moved it to a regular council meeting, because previous, we weren't allowed to spend money at the policies and priorities committee meeting. So I think that's why some of the council saying, then why have the correspondence? Councillor Howe?
I think the whole idea of the correspondence is to take a meeting to look at the correspondence and think about what they've had to say, contact anybody based on what you see, allow the public to have the opportunity to hear it, read it in an agenda, and then get back to you so you can make a decision. So the correspondence side of it, I look at the matters of protocol, which is on page 95 of 95, and it talks about like no decision will be made by council to a request by a delegation at the time the delegation is heard for the first time, unless in cases where there are requests for proclamations of council. So that refers to that. The talk above that, it talks about correspondence. When such correspondence requires council action and a staff report is essential for the consideration, the matter shall be brought forward on the next council agenda following receipt of the staff report. So to me, that's the whole idea of the correspondence. It gives you an opportunity to read it, think it over, send it back out. Like that, I thought that was the idea behind it. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe we can't do that at a PMP meeting.
But I think in regards to that, you can. Like tonight, obviously, moved it to the regular meeting, but it's not voted on yet. It was just voted to move it. It could be turned down when all council's here on the next regular meeting, right? So maybe you're right in regards to correspondence. Councilor Majinski?
What about, like, say, letters of support? Would they go in a consent agenda, and then they have to get pushed along as well? Some of those are time sensitive, so something like that should be probably dealt with. MP.
Okay, so I guess the flavor of council would be to have correspondence added to the policies priority committee meeting and not taken away. Councilor Norbert?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I thought the rules for a committee of the whole, because this is a committee of the whole, this isn't a council meeting. And from what I understand, like, committee of the whole, we're not actually allowed to make decisions. We used to push any decision motion made to a regular council meeting to be voted on because we're not legally allowed to make decisions here. Everything has to be moved to a council meeting, which is why I think having the correspondence, thank you, does sometimes create those situations where we need to engage in an action, which needs to be happening at the council, not a committee of the whole. And to Councillor Howell's point, if a report is essential, not all correspondence, I don't think a report is essential, right? Like the UBCM, we don't need a report is always useful, like, to a point, but it's not always essential to the decision.
I don't disagree with both of you, actually. Like, listening depends, I guess, what the correspondence is, but sometimes with correspondence, when it comes to the regular council meeting, don't get me wrong, you read your agenda, to me, it's the first time you've seen it. And yeah, be prepared to make a vote on it on Monday night. But listen, like when Councillor Howe says, well, what happens if it's something that is to be important to our community, so residents or businesses or not-for-profits, but we haven't had a chance to hear from them because they've just seen it for the first time as well and have not had a time to reach out to council or councillors to give their opinion of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, we were elected by the residents of Thunder Ridge to make decisions on behalf of the residents of Thunder Ridge, but some things are fairly important, you know. We usually hear about it after we've made the vote. You know, you make a vote where it's to pave or to do this or to do that, and it's a huge amount of money. All of a sudden you hear, I mean, I don't take the one-offs when you hear from one or two people, but all of a sudden you go to a Let's Talk and there's 20 people that are complaining that we did it, not knowing that we were wrong. Because they didn't get a chance to reach out to you. I mean, I know hearing from other councillors, Councilor Norbury, you're very good at it. Councilor Curry does the same thing, but a lot of times you reach out to certain people yourselves knowing it's within the agenda. But maybe correspondence should be added to the PMP for that reason, because one time for council to talk about it here, maybe we don't want it. You can just pass it for information. I don't know. I mean, to me, that's council's wishes. I mean, this is a PPC, it's for us, and to have that more open discussion, whether it's with staff or with delegations, but I mean, to me, it's up to us. So, Councilor Norbury?
So, I mean, I think the scenario you're bringing up is anytime something new is brought onto an agenda, we need time to think it over. We have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to research, get information, and some of these issues we're talking about in new business, they aren't like not policy, in council meeting in general. It's the first time anybody's seen it, so what you're proposing sounds potentially like everything, the first time we see it, we can't make a decision on. Well, it sounds, I don't want to be accusatory, but it sounds like you're not reading our correspondence, so we don't want to make decisions on it. I believe most of us read our correspondence. It's the same as new business, and I think it should stay, it's an all or nothing scenario, I think, in this one. It should just be on the council.
Yeah, and if you're suggesting I don't read correspondence and prepare it, I'm prepared usually. But I mean, I look at how many times correspondence has been brought up in the last couple of months, and we've deferred it. We just had one on Monday that we deferred because we want a staff report on it. Right? So that happens, right? I mean, I get it. We can do that at the regular meeting, but you know that could have been done at a PMP directed for a staff report, or had the right information a week later before we have the meeting. But I personally, I don't care each way, but to me, it's up to council as a whole. Councillor Kirby, I think you had your hand up. My bad. Councillor Al.
So what if something comes across our desk right now that is of a time-sensitive nature? Somebody hasn't got it in during a PPC meeting. We cannot vote to, you know, there's things that we've seen, like we need chairs for our wedding, or can we get staff to help us organize this event, or can we shut this road down to do this event? And have we never ever been able to vote on anything at a PPC meeting that takes effect during that meeting, or does it all has had to been moved forward? I thought things that were of a time-sensitive manner could be voted on in a PPC meeting. But everything else was supposed to be, it gives you the opportunity to read it, defer it, move it forward to the regular meeting. If there is any discussion on it, maybe there isn't any, maybe council's like, yeah, no, that's a no-brainer, that's gonna pass, move it through, right? But it gives us an opportunity to have a discussion during correspondence. I mean, I don't know. I just think of some of the packages that we've received, where we're getting all the correspondence now from the PRRD, and I'm getting packages that have 400 pages in them, and I gotta read through all of those. Now you're gonna get rid of all the correspondence in the PPC meetings and add it to the regular agenda meetings. Now my correspondence is gonna be what, 500 pages that I gotta read to between a Thursday and a Monday, like Councillor Norbury says? But sometimes I don't have enough time to read everything that's in that package, especially the stuff on the PRRD that comes into our packages. I don't even look at it. It's 200 pages of somebody that's doing a lot expansion in Fort St. John. I could care less, right? So to me, you're gonna add more to one side of it and less to the PPC meeting. I don't know if that's the right way to
go. Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. So in response to, you know, a little bit of the correspondence as well, we have a correspondence policy. So these are some items that, you know, we can talk about when we're looking at amending that correspondence policy, right? For example, the PRD. If you don't want to receive PRD unless it's within a certain distance of the district, or, you know, certain things, that's what we're looking at, is updating our correspondence policy as well. So that some of that stuff, if council just wants to say, hey, give us a heads up for PRD stuff, we can do that and not add it to an agenda, or if that is something council wants, we can add it as well.
Councillor Howe?
And fair enough, but this council did vote on it that they wanted the PRRD stuff included in their agendas at this time. I voted against it because I thought it was too onerous, but that's the will of council, so we have to continue forward with that at this time unless something else changes. But that becomes the concern at that point, is that we already have all this information in correspondence, and then we're never going to see any correspondence in the PPC meetings. Sometimes we have, when in the summertime comes, we have 2 meetings in a month. And if you're gonna lump all of the correspondence just onto the one, it might get a bit onerous. Maybe it won't, maybe it'll work out fine, but I think that's the bit of the counterpoint to taking the correspondence out of this one.
So I got Councillor Norbert here next. But, also I got Councillor Lehman first. After myself, sorry. Just to staff and Ms. Thompson, I'm sorry, but maybe you won't be aware of it, but if you can just get some clarity, and Councillor Howe brought up, we used to, did you need a break, Councillor Howe?
No, good, just grab a drink here.
We used to make motions and votes in a PMP, maybe not legally. If we can get clarity on that, so I know there were some things that were time sensitive that would come forward, maybe from organizations through to staff, through to us, but they were voted on at PMP. So I know, reading through some of it and reading previously, if there's money attached to it, normally you cannot do that at a PMP. But if it's not monetary amounts are attached at all, those could be passed to the PMP. If we can just get clarity on that in regards to Councillor Howe's question.
Thank you. I will pass this to Ms. Cornwell for a little bit of history and more of the legislative side of it. It still is a council meeting, but I will pass that over to her.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson, and through to council. Bringing up some very interesting points tonight. We have certainly strayed from the way things used to be back in the day. The Policies and Priorities Committee meeting was committee of the whole meeting, and where it was known, it was like a working council meeting. So it's where you did your discussion. It's where staff came in and you had an informal discussion with staff. You got your information. You did this and you did that. With regards to motions, there weren't motions. Decisions weren't made. It was more of an information gathering session. The only motions made primarily were to forward to council reached consensus to forward to the regular meeting for formal adoption. Like those policies that you adopted tonight, they wouldn't have been adopted in a committee of the whole or a PPC meeting, but they would have been forwarded to the regular council meeting for formal adoption with the recommended amendments if you want to see some changes to it or whatever. Regarding the time-sensitive things that sometimes groups, they're late, getting their act together. Yes, it would come to council. It would come to a committee of the whole or a Policies and Priorities Committee meeting. Council would agree that yes, we will grant this group to shut down all the roads leading in and out of Tumble Ridge. We will also agree by consensus to forward this to a regular council meeting for formal adoption for this event that's going to take place prior to that council meeting. So that it is on record that council, yes, they agreed. We didn't, we're not going to have a meeting until after the event has taken place, but yes, they have council's blessing to be able to do such a thing.
Thank you. Councillor Lehman and Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I was just, like, some of this correspondence, and it is a time for us to be able to discuss these things so that we have a better idea of where we stand, so that when it does come time to a regular council meeting, it's not as drawn out. We already have pretty well decided which way we're going to go, so we can discuss it, but we don't vote on it. But I think it's a good time to leave some of this stuff in, just so we have a chance to go over it.
Councillor Norbury, then Councillor Majinski.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think for myself, when we're discussing the meeting itself, we're spending more time in discussion, deliberation, coming up with these ideas, because that's the purpose of it. And rather than take away from it with random correspondence, if we do have issues where we want to unpack, discuss a little more, then we move it to a P&P versus taking things to a correspondence at the time, taking away from what we actually need to be doing as the debate. That's my thought. First, we're already spending a lot of time doing other things. Why waste it with correspondence when we can push correspondence if needed?
Councilor Majinski.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm just confused here on page 9, number 16, adoption of minutes. It says, a previous meeting may be corrected, but not debated or reflected on. So does that mean we can debate it and talk about it here, but then when we take it to a regular council meeting, we cannot debate it? It's just there to be adopted? Is that?
Okay, sorry, can you, page 9?
Page 69, page 9 of the,
Okay. Which one are you reading, just so I can read
number
it?
16.
Sorry. That would be minutes. So that's like tonight when we accepted the minutes from the previous meeting. Now, is there any business arising from those minutes? We can arise, so there's errors or omissions in it. But because we've someone put a motion, or there was a motion on the floor, it was debated, voted on. I did not win my debate, so I was obviously the only one that didn't vote in favor. I can't bring that back up for debate. So at the last meeting, if I mean, I won't say I brought it up for debate, but I wanted clarity in regards to the $500,000 in regards to the bank down at FUB. So again, that wasn't to get back into a debate. I want clarity. And then like the mayor had said, I want phase 1 of 2, which I didn't know there was phases. But that's what it's saying in the minutes. You don't bring back up to debate something that's already been voted on in the minutes, not the agenda, but the minutes from the previous meeting. Does that make sense? And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. You are correct that, the errors and omissions, sometimes there's a spelling mistake, sometimes there's a numbering, so errors and omissions are more clarity for the way something was recorded. And just clarity is what you can request.
So,
Not debate, but yes, correct, not debate.
not debate. So what I brought up previous minute was probably a debate. I called it, so what I did last Monday was wrong. Last Tuesday. So I'll get Councilor Kirby first and then Councilor Majinski.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Picalca. So back to the topic, I think I like the recommendations, like the starting points put together by staff to move forward. So I think staff is looking for us to make a recommendation that we look into and proceed with amending the policies and priorities committee. So is that what the direction we're looking for tonight is number 2? Like, I think we've had a good conversation. I think they've grasped a lot of what our concerns are, and I like the starting point. So I'd like to put the recommendation number 2 on the floor. The council recommends the council procedure bylaw number 678, 2019 is amended to include the terms of reference of the policies and priorities committee, and further that the amendment bylaw be brought forward at a regular council meeting for consideration.
Okay, seconder. Councilor Noberry, discussion? So my comment is I see what's listed there, but do we want, there was talk here about in regards to correspondence. Councilor Curry.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. I preferred the way it ran before without having correspondence in the committee, the priorities, policies and priorities meeting. Also, there's no councilor's business. There's a few things that are not in it at that time, so that we can do time for other topics.
And just back to staff, do we need to add discussion items? You'd mentioned that in regards to it at the beginning. Just seeing if you wanted that added.
We would like to add it. I mean, this is like the starting point, so I mean, if you guys are all right with us adding that, we can do that.
Okay, do you need a motion? So we got a motion on the floor, but this is just being voted on to push it to the next regular council meeting. So obviously if people are nodding their heads when you said discussion, so as long as council's good with that, staff's good with it, so. Okay, any more debate in regards to the motion on the floor? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, carried. Discussion items. Council portfolio review. So I believe this was brought forward by Councilor Kirby in regards to the notice of motion. I believe that's what it was. So Councilor Kirby, you want to start us off?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, I'd like to thank staff for putting this report together. It's really nice to see the list of who's doing what on council and what boards they're sitting on. One of the current concerns I've had is not with the amount I have, because I have the time to do these. It's how and what kind of information council would like to receive from their liaisons on different groups. I mean, we can sit in on meetings and you know, we can talk for hours. I'm having a hard time doing the reports. I really would like to not have to do those reports anymore. I would sooner do verbal. And just how to process the information we're getting. I've had a couple of situations where it's absolutely the mayor's role to sit in and take on any meetings that he is asked to by groups, but I'm getting lost. I'm not getting the information I need sometimes. I'm not getting included as liaison. So if it makes you question, do we need all these positions? And do we need to sit on all the boards we are sitting on? Is there a way to streamline it? You know, I just think that we haven't had a discussion about the groups and our positions there, and I just wanted to see what council was, the rest of council was thinking.
Cool. I got Councilor Calkin and Councilor Norbert. You bring up a good point, and it was one of the topics I was going to talk about, and I get it, and to me, the mayor, that's his role as a mayor to, when people or organizations reach out, is have that meeting. Totally get it, totally understand it, but I have the same point. He has a meeting, and I mean, it's sorry that he's not here. I'll have the discussion. I was waiting until tonight, but obviously I'll have to have the discussion again with him in person. But my thing is if a group reaches out to the mayor to have a meeting, or the mayor and staff, so be it. I do think our mayor should update us. If that's your liaison position, so whether it's the museum, for myself, I know they've had a few meetings, and what happens is you go to the next meeting or attend via Zoom, and they start talking about it, and you're like, what? Oh, I don't know anything about it. Like, I didn't know how to answer some of the questions they asked, because I'm like, I'll have to get back to you. Right, so I see that point, and again, I was hoping the worship would be here tonight, because that was one of my concerns directed back to him. I'm not sure where council feels on that, but I think, I do a very bad job reporting, and Councilor Norby, thank you, finally sent me the report, and I finally got a new computer and just getting it up to date and be able to send some reports. But sometimes there's nothing to report, so I do what Councilor Majinski does. I'll send you guys the minutes, the agenda. If you have something to add to the agenda, let me know, but sometimes there's nothing to report. I mean, I guess I can write it like, I know Councilor Norbury, no disrespect, but sometimes you write pretty much there is nothing to report, right? You give an update, but there's really nothing to report in that update, right? So I think that needs to be discussed, maybe how we want to handle that as council. I think, to me, the mayor should be here. This is something he put in place in regards to reports to be more up to date for all council, not just individual councilors. So I think that's why the reporting was there. So that everybody felt involved, whether you sat in that group or that with that organization or not, you kind of had an idea what that group was doing, or possibly going to be coming forward to ask council for. You see those updates coming from other groups. So, yeah, and in regards to the list, there's some things I didn't even know I was on. So I talked to Ms. Thompson today. Yeah, there was a couple groups I didn't know I was on. So I haven't been attending those meetings because I wasn't aware I was on them. So, Councilor Norbert.
Which one did you know you were part of, Deputy Mayor?
I do now. Thanks, staff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I can't really speak to your concerns you mentioned about the mayor. I know, like, the mayor's role affords him different responsibilities. But I do understand that when we're missing information, that is a lack of transparency. I think that hurts everybody. But I mean, from my side, I do the reports to see everybody all the effort, right? Like, I'm going to boil it down for you because I hope that you all are trusting in my position. as liaison or director. And, you know, I want to, thanks, Councilor Lehman. And, you know, we only have so much time, so I'll just hit the high notes, right? And if there's any issues, you know, get back to me. But if people are finding too much time, if that's too onerous, I mean, I understand. I'd personally be happy with agendas and minutes. Right? If we got the agenda, the minutes, you know, most boards, their directors send those out. Just forward along to council. That keeps the rest of us informed, right? Because I do like seeing what's happening at the Geopark and the museum, and I can't attend their meetings because I have other meetings. But if there is an issue, I can read, I can find out what's going on. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so just in regards to like, so I don't want to take anything from the mayor. So to me, like, we're talking about these reports. Maybe not do them or do more verbal or just thing. I think that's a discussion that we have. If we move it to the regular meeting, this is something I don't want to take this from the mayor. This is something that he put into place, and to me, as a deputy, I am definitely going to support that idea that he's wanted. But it doesn't mean that we can't bring it forward for him just to be able to say why he put it there. And why it should stay there, or maybe he agrees it should come out. It's the same, I just want to make it very clear, same as if we want to get rid of some of the groups we sit on, or some of the groups that have people sitting on. Again, I think that should be through the mayor, not through me. So, I mean, I don't think we can make those decisions, it has to go to the next meeting anyways, but again, I just want to make sure that's clear, because there's, maybe there's some groups we want to remove, but I think that should be when the mayor's here. So, I just want to say that. Councillor Majinski.
Thank you. I actually sat in on the Resource Municipalities Coalition for Mayor Bertrand, and it felt like I got thrown in the deep end on it. There was so much information. I had probably 10 emails and just so much to read the night before, and it was pretty tough to go in and even beneficial to that, to even speak on it. Like, I had to get updates, and I was asking Mayor Bertrand in the middle of the night, 10 o'clock at night, asking questions, where's this, what's that, and who's going to be there, how long is this going to be, just the basics, and then not even to get into the nitty-gritty of it. Some of these, I think, they're pretty heavy and have a lot of information, and there should be appointees or alternates to them, and maybe both of them should sit on the same plan, because I had the coalition forward on all the information, the minutes, to Mayor Bertrand, but I don't know if he's updated to the rest of the council on what's going on. He does verbals all the time at the end of meetings. Maybe that's good enough. And there's so much information that it's hard to know if we need to know it all as well, right? Like, what's it actually benefiting us? So, for me, it felt like I sat there for 2 hours and I wasn't able to engage as much as I'd like. Like, I might have asked questions that would have been asked 3 months ago, or, like, it would have been irrelevant at that time. So, just being up to speed on a lot of them is tough when you have to step in for somebody. So,
I think he's looking for somebody to take a call on Wednesday. I know and I think that's the problem with some of these, and maybe you make a good comment that maybe on some of these bigger ones, the alternate, and they both attend. I mean, no disrespect, but I think the same thing happens at the Peace Regional District Board of Directors sometimes too, is Mayor Bertrand's the chair, and you have the co-chair, which is Councillor Kirby. And to me, if you're not up to date on it or whatever, I think you can miss things or not understand what you're going into until you get there, and then you're like, oh, geez, I wasn't prepared. And I mean, I don't blame that on Councillor Kirby, I don't blame that on the mayor, but I mean, I think some of those, like Fort St. John gets 2 people on the Peace Regional Board due to population or whatever, how it's set up. So even if one isn't there, the other one's obviously got all the information. So again, I think the schedules are busy of all individuals of council, and I think it's hard sometimes for Mayor Bertrand to fill in his alternate on the PRD board or that with all what's going on. So I do see some of it. Like I hats off to Councillor Kirby for sitting in the PRD. Hats off to you for doing the Resource Municipality Coalition the other day, because I couldn't attend it. I mean, they have weird times, and I'm not sure if that works for most of the mayors that sit on that. But I mean, it's hard when you run a business and it's at the time of the day, and I find it tough. That's why I can't make Wednesdays. Councillor Hall.
So if we can't have any discussions or can't change anything or move anything without Mayor Bertrand being here, should we just move this to another meeting? Just don't worry about the discussion topics on it tonight.
Well, I think I can. I don't know. Ms. Thompson. like, I think we can come up with some ideas and take it back to Mayor Bertrand, but maybe you're 100% right, Councillor Al. Ms. Thompson, your opinion?
Thank you. So I think having the discussion, at least to get some talking points going forward, if anything, I would forward it to the next PPC, right? You know, there is quite a bit of discussion and to find our way forward and even get a little list of saying, you know, this is how we want to see things. I think that needs to be a discussion. I don't feel the council talking about some of the concerns that they have with the committees. It may give staff a chance to say, hey, we found this, you know, we can bring more information back to a next PPC. But, you know, by all means, if council wants to move it to the next PPC when the mayor is available to discuss, then I think that's a good thing as well, either way.
Councilor Nober?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. What's the thoughts about having our CAO potentially on some of these important committees that affect public? Sorry, Ms. Thompson. But I mean, if we're talking about the importance of some of these committees, like I sort of think like, well, if the mayor has all this knowledge, we can't make it. It makes sense that it's unfair to send someone in that doesn't know what's going on, right? But if they're so important that we need to have someone there, well, maybe we should always have somebody on the burner ready to go that has information. Or we just, you know, if Mayor Bertrand can't make it, he can't make it, right? Like, Mayor Bertrand forwards everything. You know, whatever he gets, he forwards it out. I would have to assume that, you know, if he can't, if there's any issues in communication, it's just he's so darn busy, right?
Yeah, I think he is busy, don't get me wrong, but I also think sometimes we take too much on our own plates. I mean, you don't have to sit on, no disrespect, if that's his wishes, that's your wishes. It's no different as council. If you want to sit on 15 of these boards, have at it, that's your wish. So, Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kauka. Also, just on like attending meetings in general. You know, it used to be at one time, like, this is when previous liaisons would come to our meetings. They would come in, they would have an issue right off the top. Anything that pertains to something needed by the liaison, whether it was if you needed a letter of support or something to do with money, whatever that liaison needed to bring to council, that could be right at the beginning of your agenda. Now, if you would choose to stay for the whole meeting, you could, but then your kind of why you're there is dealt with right off the top. That's one thing. In closed sessions. You know, what is council, is the liaison to be in a closed, in camera on that board? I'd like to know, you know, just to keep up to date. There's lots of different things that we could look at is in our roles as liaisons. And, you know, and mostly it's just having a better path of communications. What everybody needs to know. You know, if I know that the geopark is doing a whole bunch of stuff with money and there's changes and stuff like that, I could say, well, let's get on the next PMP so that all of council can sit and listen instead of trying to decipher what, you know, certain members might find important, other than forwarding all the minutes and the agenda and then, you know, getting that out early enough. But that also means that boards have to have their agendas out early enough to get sent and then their minutes back before the, you know, sometimes you're looking at the minutes the day of, or it's a verbal, you know, report, which is really quite useless, you know. So I don't know, it's just all these little things that kind of come up that we haven't addressed as a council since we've really been on council, and things to make our jobs easier. And then fine tuning some of the boards to, or where we're sitting, if anybody has suggestions, I don't know.
So I got Councilor Howell and Councilor Majinski. So my biggest comment is everybody happy with the boards they have? Not willing to change it tonight, but if you're not happy or you want to change or you want to be added some, you know, it can be marked down and staff can have that for when it goes forward. So that, you know, it gives time to be able to read that information before the next meeting when Mayor Bertrand is here. I mean, again, some of this stuff is appointed by the council and some of this is him putting our names there. So is everybody happy where they are? Councilor Kirby? You're happy where all the boards you're on and no changes?
My Thursdays are pretty busy.
Good.
But I mean, I'm willing to stick with what I have. There's like Northeast Destination Development. There's some of the tourism ones that I will sit in on the Zoom meeting because it might pertain to something with NDIT or another, you know, somewhere else that I'm sitting. you know, I don't really necessarily have to have input on that. I know that when I'm on some of those, we've got Mr. Powell, we've got Ms. Olson, we've got sometimes Councilor Majinsi, and sometimes myself, and then you've got Manda, you've got the whole, there's Tumbler Ridges represented by 7 people, so maybe I can dial back on some of that as long as I can, you know, get the, but it was having one meeting where I didn't have the information, I was left kind of like feeling like, oh, wow, that was, and so now I'm kind of, you know, maybe don't have to be on a couple of them because I know it's, but at this point, probably, I'm good for right now.
Okay, Councillor Majinski, you're happy with all your board business? I know you're next, but.
Yeah, on the Tumbler Ridge Public Library Board, and I know it's by the BC Public Libraries Act that I'm supposed to be on that board, but I don't understand what my role is apart from being a voting member, and when I bring information to council when there are delegations being brought forward, and whenever they need something, they come forward. When information's been asked, it goes straight to them instead of to me. So I find being on board sometimes, if a user group or nonprofit needs something, they're going to come and be a delegation regardless. So all I'm really doing is passing on minutes at that point. So I'm just a pusher, right? So I just want to know, like, what else am I contributing to for on board like that, right? I'm bringing on information and then that's it.
So do we need to get more clarity in regards to why we have a member voted on by council to sit on the library board that's supposed to be a voting member? Can we get more clarity from staff in regards to the documentation to read?
Councilor can step out for library stuff.
Or we're not, we're not discussing it, just if they can bring us the act, just so we can all read it, so we understand what councilor, so yeah, definitely not getting into that, council member.
I have looked at it and read it.
Wait, are you clear on it?
Yeah, I'm supposed to be a voting member on that.
And right
there
now,
should be an alternate as well.
and right now, are you,
I'm the only one.
no, I know, but are you a voting member today?
I started, yes, because of reading after the act. So the previous year, no.
Okay.
No, I did discuss that with the board and the head librarian.
Okay. Does anybody want to sit on as an alternate on the library board? Not that I'm appointing you, but just so your name can go there and it gives time for staff to put it there and pass it on to the mayor. Yep. Councilor Lehman, you're happy with all the boards or all the organizations you sit on?
Yeah.
Concerns? Councilor Nobre?
Yeah, I feel that I'm doing okay with the work.
Okay. Councilor Howell?
Yep.
Okay. Councilor Majinski and then Councilor Howell. Sorry, just want to make sure we're all happy there.
No, that's exactly what I was going to bring up after, prior to your.
Okay, Councilor Howell? You had your hand up, I apologize, I didn't get back to you.
So I mean, if we're gonna get into discussions on it without the mayor, then I guess we are. So I don't think it's right that the mayor goes and has private meetings with these groups and doesn't invite the liaison to them. I think that's completely wrong. Like Councilor Norbury says, he thinks we should trust in him, and we do. You're on those boards, we think you're selected well. Nobody's said, I got a problem with Councilor Norbury on this one or Councilor Kirby on that one. We do, we trust in you. Just as vice versa, the mayor should have trust in us as we're in there representing us as well. And he should be leaning on that person who is on that board when he goes in to represent the district without bringing somebody in who's the council member supposed to be in there. That to me is just wrong. You know, you know, when you're building your team, you got your best guy that you're going to take into that meeting with you. You want to have that person with you, not to say, oh, I don't need him there at that meeting. I can take this on by myself. Not only does the information not get through to the council appointee, but our mayor goes in blind and makes decisions on stuff that he may not know enough about because the council appointee is not there. So it's a two-way street. It has to be both ways. The mayor needs to give the respect for the people that are on the portfolio. That's what I had to say on that. And as for a review, so this is 2.5 years we've been on council. It's the first time I've seen the council portfolio come in front of me. It sounds like a lot of you as well. And I'd like to point out that I did not even know that I was the primary on the Chamber of Commerce. So I contacted the Chamber of Commerce today and I said, do you know who your council liaison is? And they said, no, we do not know who it is, we've never been informed of it. And then I also heard from the Chamber of Commerce that they were contacted by staff to ask them, do you know who your liaison is from the Chamber of Commerce? Nobody knew it. So obviously for 2.5 years that we haven't reviewed this, it needs to happen a little more often. So maybe a thought process that we might look at is, should we have this posted at our Let's Talk forums? So we have our Let's Talk every 6 months, 3 months, something like that. So this sheet is right there. If you want to talk to a specific counselor about the Mountain Bike Society, you go and talk to Councillor Kirby. She knows what's going on the Mountain Bike Society. It gives us an opportunity also as councillors to see it more often than once every 2.5 years. Again, this is set up by the mayor. He's got a lot on his plate, but he needs to keep council informed of these types of things.
Yeah, and I hats off to Council Curry for bringing it up, because, again, I didn't know I saw it on a couple of these and we're attending things, so. I think sometimes things just slip, and I can't speak on behalf of Mayor Bertrand, but, I think we get busy, and I think this is, what you say about making sure it's at the Let Talk, or even just bring it forward to council every once a year or whatever, to make sure everybody's happy and nobody wants changes. I mean, sometimes people, I know Councillor Kirby was saying, your Thursdays are overwhelmed, and, sometimes maybe you want to give up a group because it's on the same day as all the rest of your meetings, so. Councillor Kirby?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Also, I did reach out to the board when I heard there was a meeting that the mayor had, and said, this is your job too. You, as a liaison, I should be informed, but also back to staff. Staff didn't know who was all on anybody, like what councillors were even, with these organizations. So, it wasn't all on Mayor Bertrand, and I have talked to Mayor Bertrand about it, and he says, oops, and I get it. It is a big job being mayor, and he's pulled in that direction, and if somebody phones you, he has all the right to take that meeting, but, just to get better at letting us know and keeping us informed, because we're the ones that are gonna turn around and be at that next meeting, and it just doesn't look well when your council isn't, up to date with what's going on. But also, Mayor Bertrand took Councillor Rajinski off of mountain biking, and which is unfortunate because he's the mountain bike guy. And I still, I have a hard time seeing the conflict there, but I guess there is one. And if I'll leave it the way it is, but if there was somebody that was interested in the Mountain Bike Association, I would say that would be the one I'd give up to give myself, leave my Thursdays open for TAC and Geo Park.
Sure. I'd be willing to take your mountain bike. I don't have any on Thursdays. I only have Tuesdays for the museum. I have one Thursday a month that I meet the health task force, so I'm not willing to take it at this point, but I think it can be noted and we can have that discussion. It's something, again, I don't want to take away from Councilor Majinski. This was his idea. This is what he ran his campaign on. It wasn't the only thing he ran his campaign on. So I think sometimes I don't know. I'm not going to get into the conflict thing. Maybe it's seen or portrayed, and maybe that's what the comments were. But yeah, I'd be willing to. I think it's a great society that is formed, and I think it's formed for one of the reasons is because of Councilor Majinski running that as his platform for council. So hats off to you. But yeah, I think again I'd put my name forward, but I think that debate's happen next meeting with Mayor Bertrand. Did you have your hand up? Did you want to be on it? Well, I took it away from you. I mean, seriously, if you want your name
that's
on.
fine. You want to do it, that's fine.
Well, I can be the alternate. I'm good with that.
You can be the primary, I can be the alternate.
Okay, well, we can discuss it. I mean, you can put Councillor Lehman down as well. So maybe things change. Maybe I'll just pull my name and just be the alternate if he's interested. Like, I know the reason I brought it up is I know Councillor Kirby reached out a few months ago and we were chatting about it. But does anybody have anything else in regards to the terms of references and other stuff that's attached here from staff? One thing I'll say is Mayor Bertrand did reach out to me, and that was in regards to the Mayor's Economic Resilience Task Force. Yes, it's been put on hold for a little bit due to COVID, due to his schedule. He believes it is very viable still, and is just waiting to, I don't know, maybe have some time to get back and working on it. But there are some things that he believes that still can be worked through with that group, so I just wanted to bring it up because he did get a hold of me this afternoon about that. Anybody got anything else in regards to this, this part of the agenda? Councillor Majinski.
Yeah, just the Tumbler Ridge Youth Services Society.
Yep.
It's empty, have they reached out and asked if they would like to have a council member on there, or?
Have they, has the Youth Society reached out? I know previous, I'm not sure if we had a councillor liaison on there, but has anybody reached out?
Thank you for your patience. So historically, there was a liaison in the past couple of years. There hasn't been. So, you know, it was on the list. Staff was creating this list and trying to get things. And if we did miss a committee that somebody is on as well, please let us know. You know, we made up the list and put it to where we thought it was. So if we do have something incorrect, we can definitely change that or add it as well.
Okay. Councillor Majinski, is that something you were interested in?
Potentially, yes. I just wanted to maybe have staff reach out to them and see what the status is there, if possible.
Just Tom, do you need a motion for that, or you're good just to reach out, see if they're interested in a liaison still, if it's something we maybe missed?
Correct.
And again, there might be a reason from Mayor Bertrand's side. I think he's the one that went through the list, so don't want to take anything from him. Okay, is there anything else there from council? Councillor Howe?
Just a question on the Tumbler Ridge Mountain Bike Society. Is this only in place until the Tumbler Ridge Mountain Bike Society gets their pump track and gets up and running? Is that the idea behind it? Because to me, we don't have a council liaison on every other community group that's in there. And it makes sense to me now while they're trying to get fired up. Would this have a distinct end date on it when this will be done?
Councillor Kirby? Would you have any? I'm not trying to put you in a spot, but do you have any insight to that part of it?
Thank you, Dr. Mayor Kalka. I guess it's hard to say. I mean, I think it's always going to be functioning. Then it's going to become a district-owned property, but there still should be a board. So, you know, I mean, I guess it's just to see what the board says. Like, if there's things going on, I guess there's always going to be issues. It would be like when we used to have the TR Day Society. Somebody was sitting on that one. It's just how many things are we going to sit on? I think you just have to pick and choose if there's something that they need direction on. I think at this point, it's good to have a liaison. But down the road, it'll be just like any other functioning group.
Councillor Howe?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. I mean, it does make sense to me now, but like we don't have a council liaison on the figure skating club or the curling club. They all have boards. Minor hockey has a board. We don't have a liaison on any of those. And I would think at some point the Tumbler Ridge Mountain Bike Society would be just like one of those other groups. And at some point, council could back out of that. And that just gets the discussion going. Is there anything else that we don't really need to be in on? Do we need to have that much hands-on stuff in all of these groups? Some of them absolutely makes a lot of sense to have some council insight and whatnot in there, but do they all? Do we need them all?
And I kind of, I think that kind of makes sense. I mean, I was just going to say the same thing. Maybe that's why the Youth Service Society is kind of went to that way. I think the Mountain Bike Association right now is a little different. It's not just for the pump track, but it's, a new organization that, is looking to me for support from council, not always in the money thing, but the letters and helping with the government pushing for getting this and getting that. And I think, that's a good voice to have on their board this time. But you might be right. As it moves through and they start getting some of their downhill trails and uphill trails built and stuff like that, they might see, whoever sits in that board might come back and say it's really moving ahead. They've got their contest that they needed. So, Councilor Newberry?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Howe makes a good point. I mean, I'm on a couple of boards outside of council that don't require that much council engagement. I think that's what it comes down to, either through money or support, right? Like the Mountain Bike Association, they're not so much getting it when we are funding capital projects, but they aren't receiving yearly funds like, say, the Geopark or the Society for Girls with Needs is. But they do have a lot of engagement they need with us, so it does make sense to have that liaison role. Moving forward, I think they potentially don't need to. But with organizations that have direct ties with the district, we should have someone there reflecting council, advising them on how to navigate these issues they may come up with, right? And I think The thing is, if we're giving an organization some money to operate, we should have a liaison. That's a bad idea.
We got Councilor Majinski and then Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Mayor. And that's why I was on the GMBA board to begin with, is to bring back information, because I had a vested interest in it. And I don't think there was a real designation to have a liaison on that board. It was just my kind of thing, and then kind of got put to the side on that. But I don't think going forward, like once the pump track is complete, then probably it would be up to council if they want to still keep involved, because they do, see the potential and where it's going to go forward. And then you can have updates whenever they feel see fit, there's new announcements or something going forward, And that's just when you want to see probably liaisons on boards, is when there's something new and exciting going on, like say there's something going to happen at the Saddle Club and it's a big project, they're putting in a new barn or whatever, or new horse riding stables or whatever, right? Maybe we want to be abreast of what's going on there and be part of that, But as of right now, I think being a part of some of these is kind of worthwhile.
Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I call you something different every time.
It's all right.
Anyway, if we could look at it as how we're funding those groups, like if you look at the museum and the geopark, they're taking a lot of tax dollars and the pump track. I mean, we invested, the district invested there. So maybe those are areas that we look at, is maybe how we decide whether a group has a liaison or not. And because any of these groups can come to a council meeting. That's why we have the PMPs, is to have those groups come in and bring us their concerns. I was talking to Ms. Thompson earlier, like they were going to set up something with letters of support. If it didn't have a financial money attached, that they could do that. A letter of support can go out without having to come to council every time. There's different suggestions that they're making that really could really, kind of tighten these roles up a little bit to make them more functional. Even with TAC, TAC does all the tourism kind of aspects. So they're the museum and all of our tourism industry is in that one meeting. Even if I'm sitting on that, they could bring me, any kind of council issues that need to be done. I could deal with that right at the TAC too, if it doesn't take away from that agenda. But it's just how to, just take a look at all these boards and really what is a necessity. Because we have lots that don't. There's TR Cares Lions, Seniors First, Saddle Club, that we don't have to sit on, and we still have a lot. Good conversation.
Anything else from council? Okay. So do you need a motion to have this move to the next PMP? To state on your, I think council, Jesus, the worship should be involved as well.
Correct.
Just again, this is his thing, so.
Yeah, we'll bring it back as a discussion item on the next.
Okay, appreciate that. Question and answer period. Curious, have you received any questions?
I did receive a couple questions tonight. The first question is from Denise Karlstrom, and she is questioning, how do I move forward now with applying? When will the criteria be available regarding land sale?
Okay, well, I have a hard time answering. I would think staff needs a bit of time to come forward. It's just a motion that was passed tonight. So I think, I don't think it's right we ask staff to reach out to her when we're ready. I think it has to come back into a regular meeting anyways, or we'll be updating the regular meeting, and then we can, if she's watched, she'll be updated, but I'm saying a month or two. I'm not sure from staff side. And again, I don't want to put you on the spot because some unknowns on your guys' side probably as well.
Yes, thank you. We do have some unknowns, but as soon as we do have information available, we will be bringing it forward on how we proceed with a case-by-case basis.
Councillor Hall?
And just with that though, like there is some criteria that you are looking at, that you're gonna have some type of a checklist for them to complete. I understand you've got to go through all your departments and stuff, but that is the game plan moving forward. At least we could give the resident the idea behind it.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes, thank you. So yes, we will be sitting down as a team and, trying to make sure that we have all those questions that we can think of, that, there's a checklist that can be answered in order to bring as much information to council's awareness when they make those decisions, right? and that staff is able to bring a recommendation to council on what we feel is best for the community.
So just on that, in regards to your checklist with your team, that'll come back before council as well?
Yeah, as much as, a PPC will bring it forward because, we may have missed something or, something that we feel is important. We'll bring that back to council to say these are the things that we feel you should be reviewing when you look at this on a case-by-case basis.
So again, I don't want to put a timeline to it or expect you to, but a couple months, or are we looking long?
I'll have to get back to you on that with everything else we have on our plates right now with budget. We'd like to get it back as soon as possible, but I can't promise it in a month. Maybe in 2 months. A month might be tight.
Okay, Councillor Howell?
Just a thought that kind of came to me with it. Would there be any benefit for staff to involve a member of the public that's interested in doing things like this? Like, I know you're going to get together as a group and come up with your thought process, but this person, I think this is the same lady that was looking to do the lot expansion at the back of her property. Would it be, would that be good to utilize her in an exercise so that you guys can kind of see what type of questions or the thought process behind somebody who's going to purchase something? Is there any benefit to that to you, or just you'd rather not do that at this time, or?
Ms. Thompson?
I'll talk with my staff and, I'd like to sit down with my staff a little bit more and look into it more before we do that. I think as we move forward, I hate to say it, but Ms. Karlstrom's gonna be our guinea pig.
That's right.
So as we work through the process and help her with her application, we'll be able to answer those questions. I'm not sure ahead of time if it would be beneficial to her, plus it would take up a little more of our time to figure it out. So we'll get a game plan and we'll move forward with it.
Okay, thank you. Another question?
So Ms. Karlstrom also sent in another question that was not on the agenda. So a question regarding an item that's not on agenda, so I won't be bringing it forward. I've responded to her that I can't bring that forward. And the other one was just a clarification from Mr. Ernst regarding removing item 7.2. Just a little, was it removed or did I miss it? So I responded that it was
Removed to,
it was removed, yeah.
and then it'll be coming back eventually anyways? Okay. Okay. Take adjournment. Recommendation? Councilor Nomar? Adjourned, okay, seconder? Councilor Kirby? All in favor? Carried. Sorry, I was waiting for you.
That was my moment to shine. I let it fall.
It wasn't 15 minutes.